Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome to this episode of SMB Live Rewind, where we're going to take a look at business continuity and with Windows Server and Azure Storage and Backup. And really, we're going to take a look at the demonstration. So in this episode, we're going to take a look at how Azure Backup actually works. So without further ado, let me go ahead and switch on over into my servers and we can actually start taking a look at what's there. So we're going to start in my primary source server, but I'm actually logged into the Azure portal. Now to start backup, you have to create a thing called a backup vault. Now I've already done that. My backup vault is SMB Demo 2. I've also registered my servers as a part of this vault. And all registering the servers do is basically associate my servers that I want to back up or even restore to or restore from to this actual vault, so I know that I have a secure communication to them. You do that by configuring the servers with the vault credentials, and this is just a downloaded file that when you actually work with the backup agent itself, it's going to ask for, hey, what are the vault credentials? That way Azure knows that I want to back up to my vault and not yours, because the steps to actually do the backup for everybody are identical inside of our worlds that we have today. Now inside of Azure Backup, we actually have an agent that we've already downloaded, and I've already installed it on this server, so you didn't have to watch the actual installation process. But we have a agent for System Center Data Protection Manager, Windows servers, or clients. If you happen to have essential servers that are out there, we have an agent specifically for that. There's also this option here that says download Microsoft Azure Backup Server for applications. This is actually a lightweight server. It's very similar to Data Protection Manager, but it's a free server that you can download to a customer's on-prem and do the ability to back up workloads, like back up just the SQL workload that's running on top of one of your servers that are on-prem, and it'll back it directly up to Azure as well. But for today, we're just going to focus on the basic backup. If I go to registered items, let me show you what I have currently registered here. I don't have currently any virtual machines registered, but I actually am leveraging just Windows Server. And you'll notice that I have a few servers here, SMB Live DC2, which is the server I'm currently on, and SMB Restore 2, which is a server I could back up because it's registered, but it's also going to be my target for my destination of my restoration product that I have. And if I go to protected items, I can get a quick peek at what actually is currently protected. If I just do a quick filter on that, you notice that I'm backing up my folder, how many recovery points and retention points that I have, what's the newest, that's all there. So I've set this up in the back end, and creating the backup vault's fairly easy. About the only decision you have to pay attention to is, do you want your backup data locally redundant or geo-redundant? And by geo-redundant, what will happen is not only will you get a copy in the the backup in the data center region you select, you'll also get another copy in its partner data center region, which will be in the same country of origin for you to work with it. So the nice thing about this, I've already configured that all up, and let's actually take a look at how we do the backup. So I'm just going to bring up the backup tool. This is the actual agent that I've already installed on the system. You'll notice that I actually have a newer version available for the agent. They do have updates occasionally. But how do we actually back up the server and get it all set up? Well, I mentioned that registration process. Here's where that register server is. I'm going to ignore the proxy for a second because I just want you to notice it says vault credentials. Now, if you set up Azure Backup in prior versions, you had to have your own self-signed certificate. You don't have to do that anymore. All you have to do is log into your backup vault and download those vault credentials and set it up. You'll also get an encryption setting where you can type in a pass key. That'll be useful, and I shouldn't say useful, will be needed for the restoration processes. Like I said, I've already done that, and let's actually now I've already done that. Let's take a look at how we schedule the backup. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Schedule Backup, which is my least favorite term because this is really configuring the backup. Scheduling is a part of it, but you're configuring the whole backup. Now I've already set it up, but I'm just going to go ahead and make changes so you can see what's there and what I'm currently backing up. Notice that I'm backing up just a currently directory backup. Nothing fancy there, just a simple text document. I can control the schedule of when this occurs. I can also control the retention policy. How long do I want to keep these files for? Notice that we can go all the way up to 99 years and beyond if we want to control that retention of the data that we have. and then we have a confirmation, and then we can sit there and modify it. I'm going to go ahead and cancel out. I don't need to modify my backup configuration, but I'm all ready to go. And now how do you actually make a backup? So I'm just going to go ahead and say backup now. It's going to verify all my information. I'm just going to go ahead and say backup, and it's going to actually start the process of backing up my file to the cloud. Now this will take a minute or two. I'll pause the video and fast forward as the modern technology allows us to work with that. You'll also notice that it's transferring data. It's 1.meg. That's a lot of metadata underneath the covers and the access control list. My actual backup itself is fairly small, and this should occur fairly quickly, and it's there. So once this data is backed up, that's a key part of the process that we have. Even though it says job complete, everything's successful, I'm happy, my backup's there. Now backups are backups, right folks? They all are set up for us to work with and use and leverage that are there. So let me go ahead and minimize that cloud server down, and let me go to my restoration server. Now for purposes of demo, this restoration server is just another server that's tied to that backup vault, but for all intents and purposes, DC2 and this server don't know anything about each other. They're not networked together. They're not a part of the same domain. It's a completely different server. So one of the great things that you can do with this backup solution is restore to a non-existent server. This could have been a server I just created inside of Azure, and as long as I have those vault credentials that are there, I can do it very easily. So now how do we recover data, folks? This is actually pretty easy to do. After you've installed the agent, which I've already done here, all I need to do is go recover data. Now this question will drive you nuts the first time you do it. It's going to say, hey, yeah, I want to recover to this server. That's not what the question is asking. The question is asking, hey, where was the backup created, which is the key terms here. That was actually created on another server. Now notice what it asks me for. It asks me for vault credentials. So I'm going to go ahead and browse. Now I have some vault credentials I've downloaded before. They're fairly older, but let me take a look and see what happens. And notice when I do this, part of the security behind this, everything's encrypted from the transmission of the data and in our backup vault itself, but we have to use these vault credentials within 2 days when we're doing this type of recovery, and that's okay. They're very easy to get a hold of. So I'm going to say okay to that message. That's fine. I'm going to go back to my actual portal, and I'm just going to download those credentials. Should take just a second here, and got it. And I'm just going to put this on my desktop so I can get to it very easily for us to see. And just go ahead and close that download and go back to my backup server. Now what's going to happen, let me browse for that actual file and just on my desktop and bring that in. Now everything should be happy. Now notice what it did here. It brought me to the correct backup vault, set up everything else for my subscriber IDs, and I went from there. It's going to say, hey, what server do you want to restore from? I'm going to do SMB Live DC2. And then I'm just going to browse for files. Now, depending on what you're doing, search might be more efficient for you, but you have that capability there. I'm going to select that C drive. Remember, I did that C colon backup. That's the volume that I've actually recovered. Give it a second here to bring back all those recovery points that I have, because we've done many backups. So I can, once again, my retention policy will allow me to bring back data from a long time ago, or as most recently as the backup I just completed a few seconds ago. So we'll give it a second here to give us all the recovery points, and then we'll go ahead and proceed with the recovery and talk about what we can do inside of this. Now, folks, what's fun about this, this entire demonstration that you're taking a look at today, I'm actually done inside of Azure. I've created 2 virtual machines, but this is no different than if they were on-prem physical boxes or on-prem virtual machines as well. The process would work identical as long as they had internet access to be able to access the backup vaults to back up and restore from. So I just backed up those files. Recent times fine, but you'll also notice, and if I go back real quick, I can choose times of the day. I can go back in a different type of day if I want that. It really depends on where you need to restore that file. I'll just choose the most recent. I'll let it go ahead and recover everything it needs to recover, and then I'm going to actually put it onto my desktop here because I am going to another physical server. Just click OK, and it's going to restore the files there for me. I'm going to bring back the access control list. Now here's where it gets very interesting. You actually have to decrypt that backup as a part of this restoration when you do it to another server. Now if I was backing up and restoring to the same server, you wouldn't have to do this, but in this particular case I have to, and I've already got my passphrase in my cached in my copy and paste. So I'm just going to paste that in. This could be whatever you've configured. When you register a server inside of the Azure Backup agent, it's going to ask you for this passphrase. Folks, don't forget this passphrase. Let me say that again. Folks, don't forget this passphrase. If you forget it, you're not going to be able to bring back those files. So this is something you want to keep safe and secure, or use something. So when I look at this from a partner perspective, and when you have your customers, it might behoove you to kind of keep those very common for your customer sets so you can bring back your customers' data if they ask you to. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on recover. It's going to take a second. It's going to actually start this recovery process for me. And we'll give it a second just to bring down my files. Now I put it on the desktop, so we'll go back and take a look, and it'll show up here in just a minute from the cloud. So one of the things I want to think about as I'm running this recovery process, you might be thinking, well, Matt, what if I just spin up an Azure virtual machine and I download my backup agent for whatever backup tool you currently use? Could I use a virtual machine as part of my recovery solution? The answer is absolutely yes. And you also might be thinking, well, what if that physical server really went away? Maybe a legitimate disaster, got water damage or the drive went bad and you have to replace the hardware. Could I use the Azure virtual machine that I'm restoring these files to actually work on and live on until I get that physical environment? The answer is yes. Now you want to make sure you have everything in place for that data to work. So if it's a SQL database, you might need to load SQL, or if it's a specialized applications data backup, you have to bring it back up. But you'll also have to bear in mind that when it's time to rebuild that environment and everything's ready to go, how do you bring the data back? Well, folks, this is where Azure Backup works again. You simply back up that VM that you've been running in for a period of time to your backup vault. You go down to that brand new server that was built on-prem and you restore. So you can use Azure as a part of your recovery solution very nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and click on close, minimize that, and minimize this window. It should pop onto my desktop. Now I have my C volume that I just restored. Look at my backup, and I recovered a file. Go Buckeyes! And for all my Buckeyes out listening out there, OH! I expect IOs out of all you. So with that, as you can see, doing Azure Backup is actually pretty easy to do. It's just a matter of having those servers registered, that vault created, and then you just back up and you can restore. Now here's where the fun part gets in. Because I'm in a remote session, I can right click on this file and I can copy and paste this, and I can take it out of this virtual machine running in Azure, paste it onto my actual system, and now I've just recovered a file from the cloud to on-prem by simply just copying and pasting that data over. Now, folks, I'm realistic. If your recovery set's a few gigs, it's going to take a little time, but it can be that easy to recover that. So hopefully you've enjoyed this quick little SMB Live rewind on how to do a backup and recovery using Azure. Thank you for watching.